Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. Today's video is going to be quite spicy as I decide to retry the linked sledgehammer strat. Now if you've seen some of my videos, I have kind of tinkered with this strategy before, kind of tested some stuff out and even played it in a tournament in the past in the Serpentine Cup, which was a lot of fun. Haven't played it since, but I decided to put it back on because it is a very fun strategy and I do love me some linked sledges when I get the chance to play them. This was during a tournament. Sadly, I had already gone down with one loss, so I could, I think, get 6 wins with this game if we manage to win, and we'll just have to see if we can do it. Now, I decided to go for the Saber pack here. It is honestly one of the stronger packs available. Saber is very good in the current meta, as I've said before, and it's a nice pairing with the Hounds. I'll be able to level one of them up as well, which means that the Hound will be able to one-shot level 1 crawlers. However, my opponent is my favorite specialist, the Elite Spec. And, well, level 2 crawlers we're not going to be able to one-shot, that is for certain. He decides to go for another Hound pack alongside his Storms and Hounds. And we find ourselves in a crossfire here, as I'm going to be pushing in on the right, and he's going to be pushing in on my left. Not an ideal scenario for me. Doesn't really matter whether I'm in front of him or not. There's nothing good for my Sabers to shoot at. They're really just here to tank. But even that is going to be tough into, you know, Stormcallers, which love shooting at these slower, bigger targets. And yeah, really, it's just the Hounds on my board that are maybe somewhat useful, and the Chaff. But playing a Hound Mirror into Elite, that doesn't sound too good to me, so we'll have to see what we can do. We do manage to get the tower debuff first. I'm going to speed this up a little bit as we get our tower taken. And then Stormcallers are simply going to pummel us from a distance. As my Saber goes down, the final one bites the dust. And round 1 does go firmly in favor of Stormcrow. Round number 2, though, we have a decision to make as unit drops show up. Now, Fangs here doesn't seem too great. Fangs will just die in one shot to the Hounds and feed a lot of experience. So that's out of the question. Arclights, it's only 1, so yeah, I don't think I want to go for that. The Phoenix, though, I should probably think about, since I have no upshoot. However, I really wanted that Sledgehammer because it's level 2, and I kind of was thinking, well, Sledgehammer is kind of decent into things like Hounds, has a pretty good matchup, so you might be able to buy more of them, and honestly, they're not bad into things like Storms and even Phoenixes. Sounds weird, but it does take a long time for Phoenixes to get through a pack of Sledges, especially one that's level 2. So what I decide to do here is sell out of my Saber, since that one isn't doing anything. At least the right one is still pushing into Tara, so that's somewhat useful. And I can then use the money to buy a Crawler to kind of help out my Sledgehammer here in the corner and buy a Wasp. I was expecting him to pick the Phoenix. This Wasp is going to cover my flank, and then on top of that, it'll also have a good matchup into his Phoenix, hopefully. And perhaps we can kind of stabilize the round here. Now, Sledgehammers, you will see, do go down fairly quickly. Reason is they're simply getting overwhelmed here, right? Like, they're Storms, Phoenixes, and Crawlers. There's only so much they can do, but the stalling is not too bad. The Wasp manages to survive. My right side army manages to catch up, and while it may not look like, you know, we get a massive win, the Wasp somehow might be able to just kill his Phoenixes here, and that's really all I could hope for. Minor win, but not taking any damage there is fantastic. And considering, you know, I have somewhat of a useless army on the right side that I'm trying to sell out of, and I'm trying to stabilize on the left, I'll take that. Round number 3, again, lots and lots of decisions to make here. There's Incendiary Bomb that I could throw on his army, but I would expect him to shield, considering how valuable it is. And missing that spell whilst taking it would feel really bad. There's the Underground, of course, and then there's the mobile deployment module, rather. And I decide to go for the deployment module because I want to try and get as much use out of this Wasp as possible. I'm still running my carry techs, which you guys will see in a later video I have made use of. But yeah, this allows me to move around the map. This level 2 tower here will still go down relatively quick, and it is worth going for. 7 seconds of debuff if we take it. Put a Crawler in front of the Wasp. That way, you know, we have something to tank in case he does add something. And he does. There is a missile there. He decides to pick up a Rhino right in front of my Sledgehammers and adds a Fang on the flank as well. So that's going to be rather annoying to deal with. I currently don't have any DPS to make use of that. And, well, I don't defend that Underground whatsoever. Main reason is I felt like it would take all of my deployments and I would have to kind of put units, you know, in the back of my board where they're not going to be useful to the main fight. So we went for 2 sledgehammers, leveled one with the intensive, and at least I have a semblance of an army now, right? We do get debuffed, double debuffed even, so 18 seconds of debuff. That is quite hefty, but we still have this right side army left alive. And if the wasps can again like clean up, I'm okay with that. I don't need to, you know, win massively here. I'm just kind of trying to stabilize, and taking as little damage as possible is going to be a big part of that. Taking risks is also sometimes going to be part of that. You cannot defend everything and at the same time have the best possible board, right, against his. We do lose. Level 2 Fangs will take out my Wasp, but again, we take, you know, a minimal amount of damage, and really I'm pretty happy with this. Round number 4, big spell shows up. Underground threat again. This time around, I feel like I am in a position to pick it. I don't need any of these other things. And yeah, we're just simply going to try and defend here. At least I can use this, and then I can maybe just put down, you know, maybe 1 crawler. I can even use some missiles. Underground threat is definitely more missileable these days than it was previously, as it used to spawn 2 crawler packs. Now it only spawns 1.5. And yeah, deployment module shenanigans continue. I can see that his Phoenix here is not on the line with the tower. That means that they shouldn't turn to a deep corner flank Wasp like this. If it was 2 squares back, it would turn. I mean, even then, right, it would take a while to get through these Wasp, but I felt like, you know, giving this a go. Opponent does respect the right side somewhat, adds a crawler, adds a hound, a missile again, so we are getting some investment, but now we're selling out. Hound getting sold, Saber already was sold, and I decided to put a steel ball here behind my sledges in front of this rhino. And I'm going to start to build some sledges on the flank as well. Crawler here to distract that rhino so it doesn't immediately start punching the steel balls. And then, yeah, you can see here, we do have a tower level on the right, and we have some missiles to try and stall on top of that. Steel balls insta-connect. Missile, gonna take out a good chunk of those crawlers, and with our own underground, we should be fine and not get debuffed this time around. Wasps are gonna spawn in. Sadly, they're not the smartest, so they're gonna refuse to go to the tower, or well, one will, but the rest decides to flank the Phoenixes. That's fine by me. Currently, opponent is kind of disrespecting the Wasps a little bit. I mean, he has that level 2 Wasp, but I think it died really quick. And looks like we've managed to take a round here. Very happy with that. Sledgehammer's even managing to pick up some levels. After all, they are stuck shooting at level 2 units. And, I mean, this looks great here for us. Very happy with that. Finally, we start winning. And we can start thinking about, you know, what else do we need on our board? The unit reinforcements are here to perhaps help out with that. Opponent grabs the Mustang. I mean, that's to be expected, right? He didn't have anything against Wasp, and I do expect him to go for the Mustang. The good thing is we didn't invest much into the Wasp, right? No tax whatsoever, and we can just sell it, retrieve the item, and then say, you know, we made you kind of invest into Mustang here. Use your turn, use your unit drop to counter Wasp, and we're just going to get rid of it, and at least I know fairly certain that the Mustangs will be on your board. Makes it easier for me to predict what's coming. I decided to pick up the Phantom Rays, and I've been doing this quite a lot in my recent games. Whenever I have a lack of anti-air DPS, of flying units like Phoenix, I sometimes substitute them for Phantom Rays if I get the Phantom Ray from a drop, right? And in this case, I get 3 of them. So I decided to pick up 3, and then I decided to go for high explosive to kind of aid my sledgehammers with the chaff clear. We also have Mech Rage on the sledgehammers, and by themselves, HE Phantoms I think aren't, you know, sufficient chaff clear. Mech Rage sledges also really aren't the best by themselves, but if you pair the 2 together, you've really got a pretty solid comp. And the Phantoms can scale too. I do have this set up here with the range and the burst, which is something that I run because of a card like Extended Range Phantom Ray, which is a lot of fun. But it can work with a drop like this as well, right? You just need some tempo, some levels, and then it's very playable, especially on the aggressive boards like this one. And I'm not really planning to range my sledgehammers, so they should stay in front of my Phantoms in the future. Currently, they're not, right? 95 versus 65. And as you can see, Mustangs have taken a liking to my squishy Phantoms here. And we do need to keep some of them alive if possible, but it feels like we're not going to be able to. Yeah, my last Phantom Ray goes down. And while the left side is pushing in valiantly, even getting the tower, sadly, we have run out of anti-air, so the Phoenixes will clean up the rest of my board. I went for some pretty big flanks too. That is certainly not necessary, but, you know, I was kind of trying to have a more fun game, kind of a more spectacular game, if you will. It can make your opponent kind of overinvest on the flanks, though, so there is some idea behind it. I always like to kind of have a challenge where I try to put all of the sledges on the flank and create a link there. Whether we'll be able to do that, we'll have to see. But, you know, 3 sledges here, that's going to really kind of pull apart his army here, make him invest over here, and it means that the main fight will likely keep going in my favor, and he might not counter the Phantom Rays instantly because he's busy trying to deal with this. Round number 6, a bunch of good items, yes. Amplifying core, but also other cards. Redeploy was considerable. I decided to go for efficient tech research here because, well, I was planning to go, you know, field maintenance, link. I was planning to go range on my Phantom Rays, perhaps even burst. So felt like I should be able to get some value out of this. Opponent goes for the amp core and he decides to go for Wraith as his flank defense. Now, I was expecting him to keep buying Rhinos since he's already unlocked them, right, before. And Rhinos with Whirlwind are very, very good against sledgehammers like this one. It would be hard for me to get anything going on the flank, right? I would not be able to kill them in time, especially with the level 2s. Instead, he goes for Wraith, which I also cannot beat because they're flying units and they are very good at defending, but it wasn't exactly what I expected. We pick up the levels, and I believe we pick up some more chaff here. Pretty expensive round for us, right? We take levels, we take a second tech here on the Phantoms, but as you can see, that does aid kind of how the battle flows in this case, as the Phantom Rays stay behind my Sledgehammers, they don't get insta-locked by the Mustangs, and yeah, that is a massive difference here. I do beacon my units to the right. I think there was an orbital offered, so I'm trying to dodge that, but he ends up not taking it. And as we take down the tower, we're going to have to see if we can beat these Wraith. They are exceptionally tanky. My level 1 Phantoms with the high explosive kind of attack nerf there, not managing to get anything done. But these are level 2s and they do have some high level sledges to tank for them. So maybe we can get through. Let's see. First Wraith does go down. Phoenixes getting targeted. And it's going to come down to this amp for Wraith, which is not quite going to be able to do the job. So happy about that. Phantom Ray picks up levels everywhere. And round number 7, another intensive training shows up. The other items here, not the best. I don't need nano repair kit, right? If I want field maintenance on the sledges, I'm just going to buy the tech at some point. So decided to take the second intensive and, well, you can see that I was having fun, right? Level 4 Phantom here. I do decide to kind of spread my resources as this Phantom was level 1. Picked up a level, now we have it level 3 with the intensive. That's going to help massively against the Wraith on the left. Underground threat is back, so we're going to have to deal with that. It's in my backline once more. And opponent buys another Wraith and goes for floating artillery array first. A very, very strong tech. Not too common as a first tech though. Feel like maybe range enhancement here would have been ever so slightly better, since my Phantom Rays do have range, mind you, so they do heavily win the range fight against the Wraith. And now, I mean, I think just more chaff is being picked up. Some late crawlers, some missiles. Again, I just have to respect that underground, make sure I don't get debuffed. And then we're going to pick up some more sledgehammers in between. Now, setting up a link like this, a really important aspect of it, in my opinion, is to make sure that you have a lot of sledges of different levels. Because what link does is it spreads any damage taken by a sledge in the link across the whole link, right? So if you have 5 sledges and one of the sledges takes 100 damage, then that 100 will get spread across all 5, so each of them takes 20. If you have a longer link, you know, again, the damage gets spread evenly, and the low-level sledges will have less hit points, so they will die first. This will break the link, and it's kind of a way that you can play around things like melting point, right? Instead of your whole link getting killed because they're all the same level, you're gonna have some of them dying, And then, you know, the link can kind of progress in multiple parts. And, I mean, looking at the battle right now, we're doing very well for ourselves. Phantom Rays finally online seem to have, you know, crossed a threshold where they're able to take out those Wraith. Of course, they don't have range yet, so we'll have to see how it goes once they are double-teched. Round number 8, EMP shows up. Rhino Assault there available too. I decided to pick up the EMP. Just, you know, getting rid of a Wraith tech here is going to be very useful. And opponents going ham on the flank. Crawler added, underground threat, the second one being used. And the Rhino drop there as well. He decides to go for underground, or subterranean blitz rather. I don't think that does too much into the high-level sledges. High-level sledges are actually kind of fine against crawlers. They're not the best chaff gear, but they do tend to one-shot them. And, I mean, I also have the HE Phantoms, which aren't bad either. So, interesting play there. I decided to go for Impact Drill instead. I was really afraid he would go, like, Impact Drill and try to win, you know, the backline fight somehow. It's also why I leveled this crawler in the back. Again, more missiles. Underground threats from me, gonna go on the left. And I decided to go for the field maintenance tech first. I was waiting things out a bit because my opponent does have a lot of hit points still. And, you know, we're bound to see a unit drop here, either round 9 or round 10. And I didn't want to get heavily countered by, like, investing in both of the techs because I can't undo that, right? The field maintenance is good no matter what, but, you know, while melters are good into link, they're very bad into singular sledge. So if I happen to see, let's say, a melter drop next round, then I might not go for the link. If I don't see it, then maybe I will. Let's see how this goes, though. Looks like the flank did lose. Rhino gonna go to tower, chop it down, 7 seconds of debuff. Flanks have been dealt with. My Phantoms are trying to do what they can. We kind of have this big bundle of sledgehammers in the middle with a level 3 Phantom Ray behind. But this looks like a very close fight. We're going to get flanked from the back as well with that level 2 Wraith incoming. They do have both of the techs. At least my sledgehammers are taking down some of the missile interceptors, which have been annoying the Phantom Rays for sure. And yeah, seeing that interception makes me want to go for the burst tech. Also, the burst tech is, I think, you know, pretty decent here. We have okay sledgehammer chaff gear, and the burst will help take down the Wraith that much faster if we manage to lock onto them. But just look at the survivability of these guys, right? Level 4 sledgehammers there with just the field maintenance, and this will get way, way worse for him once we could click damage sharing. Round number 9. No unit drops, so we're bound to see them on round 10. I decided to pick up the super heavy armor, and I will throw that onto my highest level Phantom Ray. Both of the intensives are available too, so we're going to have some fun here. Click that burst mode like we said, and create a level 7 Phantom Ray with super heavy armor. Very, very hard to take out, right? Like, his DPS is mostly coming from the Phoenixes and the Wraith, but if you have a level 7 Phantom Ray with super heavy, the Wraith probably won't be enough. This is also where we pick up some more Phantom Rays. I was pretty happy with 3, but I think 5 makes a bit more sense. After that, I will mostly be prioritizing the sledgehammers. And yeah, here we go. Look at that. 60,000 hit points on those per Phantom Ray. That is disgustingly tanky. And I mean, apart from that, I'm selling out of this flank because it was just, you know, dying, feeding experience. The high-level sledge up top could be interesting to keep. It is much, much harder to kill. And this is where the opponent decides to go for replicate. Which is, I mean, it's a fine tech here to kind of try to replicate off of the flank and create more value, but level 2 replicate versus level 2 with drill tends to be drill favored, or at least the drill crawlers kind of negate the replicate that has been taken. And whoa, look at that. Insta-lock on there with the burst mode level 7 Phantom Rays, 60k damage, just taking down that level 2 Wraith like it's nothing. Look at this, locks on, level 3 Wraith, boom, gone. And, I mean, in the current meta, you might be used to seeing that with the Burst Farseer, but Burst Ray can do a pretty similar thing. I mean, absolutely crushing left side and right side. We're getting missiles as well. Really kind of eating through that econ from our opponent. And I mean, now I'm feeling confident, right? We've got that massive Phantom Ray with the super heavy. We've got our sledges ready to go. And the opponent now is low on hit points. Round number 10. Unit reinforcements show up. I decided to pick up the Vulcan and then sell it, as it is worth the most directly. And, well, we only have one plan in mind, so why stall the plan? Third tech on the sledgehammer is damage sharing. And if you didn't know, it doesn't just link all of the sledgehammers, it also gives the sledgehammers 120% bonus HP for 200 base cost, right? It is a crazy valuable tech, and honestly, maybe kind of slightly overlooked in my opinion. Very, very good gutshot tech. And, well, I mean, have a look at this. I don't know what's happening over here, but everything's linked up. We're putting level 2 sledgehammers everywhere, recruiting 2 more, temp range, temp speed, it's been clicked. All the sledges are linked from the left side of the board all the way over to the right. And my opponent decides to go for a level 2 war factory with launcher overload. Is that going to be too much for the sledgehammers to deal with? It is a classic counter to sledgehammers. Sledgehammers really cannot touch a war factory, normally speaking, but I mean, these are very, very tanky, and we have some burst rays behind. Level 8, not quite level 9, but we're getting there. And I mean, yeah, have a look at this. Oil gonna get used, opponent trying to slow us down somewhat. We're gonna try and beacon in towards that level 2 tower. And it's just gonna come down to whether or not these sledgehammers this time around can tank, right? They're all gonna be linked up, so a lot of them will die if the factory does have enough damage. Let's have a quick little look. Factory almost locked on. There it goes. Starts blasting, and I mean, you know, the level 2 sledgehammers are taking some damage, but the level 4s, they're kind of getting tickled. And as we manage to take down that tower, the level 2s actually do manage to survive and even heal back up some of the hit points. Look at that. And this is very common if you have this many linked sledges. If all of them survive, suddenly you just win the game. Yeah. Crazy, crazy game here. Kind of unconventional for sure. Pivoting there off of the first Udo drop and deciding to kind of, you know, go for more sledgehammers as I saw that the opponent wasn't respecting them too much. They probably should have gone for something like Raiden. Scorpion can be good too, obviously, but it's expensive to get into for Elite. Both of those are. Early Factory can be good too, but again, very, very expensive. Hacker is another option, perhaps more accessible for Elite. But keep in mind, you know, the hit points from damage sharing do matter. The one thing that does also counter hackers somewhat is just having a very beefy unit. So if something has more hit points, it's going to be harder to hack. Would I have gone that into hackers? I'm not entirely sure, but I think that, yeah, the best way to deal with this type of strat is going to be hackers most of the time. And otherwise, yeah, a unit drop with Raiden, with EMP, something like that could definitely work. But interesting comp here. Carry Phantom Rays, level 8, super heavy, and then the Link to boot. Tanking a level 2 factory with overload. It was, yeah, I was quite happy with this game. It was a fun one. Always nice to try out kind of different things and try and make them work. And yeah, we definitely did achieve that this game. So if you like this game, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know down below what you think of linked sledgehammers. What do you think of carry Phantom Rays? Have you been running it, especially with the extended range Phantom Ray card? Put it down there. If you want to stay up to date with latest content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.